you have done me the honor of inviting me to give your academy an account of the life I formerly led as an ape. I regret I cannot satisfy your request to the extent you desire. It is nearly 5 years since I was an ape, a short space of time, perhaps, according to the calendar, but an infinitely long time for me to travel through, as I have done, more or less, always accompanied by excellent mentors, good advice, orchestral music and applause, but essentially alone. And indeed, I could never have achieved what I have done, were I stubbornly set upon clinging to my origins. In fact, to give up being stubborn was the supreme commandment I laid upon myself, free ape as I was. I submitted myself to that yoke. In revenge, however, the memories of my past have increasingly closed the door against me. At first, I could return through an archway as wide as the span of heaven over the earth to that opening through which I once came into the world of men. But as I began to spur myself forth in my forced career as a human being and fit into that world better and better, that opening grew so narrow and shrank so much that today, even if my willpower and strength were to suffice, I should have to scrape the very skin from my body to be able to crawl through, to put it plainly. Much as I like to express myself in images, to put it plainly, your life as an ape, ladies and gentlemen, insofar as something of that kind lies behind you, cannot be farther removed from you as mine is from me. I can, however, meet your request to a much lesser extent, and indeed I do so with the greatest pleasure. The first thing I learned as a human being was to give a handshake. A handshake betokens frankness. Now that I stand at the very peak of my career, I hope to add frankness of words to the frankness of that first handshake. What I have to tell the Academy will contribute nothing essentially new and fall far short of what is expected of me and what, with the best will in the world, I cannot communicate. But it will indicate the line that an erstwhile ape has had to follow in entering and establishing himself in the world of even that information I dare not put before the Academy, were I not quite sure of myself and my position today on all the variety stages of the civilized world were not unassailable. Now, for my report. I come from the country of Gold Coast, at present known as Ghana. A hunting expedition from the German firm of Hagenbeck had taken up position among the bushes when I, among a troop of apes, came down in the evening for a drink of water. They shot at us. I was the only one who was hit. I was hit in 2 places. The first on the cheek, a minor wound which left a nasty red scar behind and earned me the name of Red Peter. That's an inappropriate name which only some ape could have thought of. But that, by the way, the second shot hit me below the hip. It was a serious wound and is the cause of my limping a little to this day. Recently, I read an article by one of those 10,000 windbags who give vent to themselves about me in the newspaper saying, and the social media, saying that my ape nature was not quite under control. The proof of it being I had a predilection for taking down my trousers before anyone who came to visit me, the hand which wrote an article should have its fingers shot away one by one. As for me, I can take down my trousers before anyone I like, and you will find nothing but a well-groomed fur and a scar-left by. And let me be particular in the choice of this particular word, by a wanton shot. Everything is open and above board. There is nothing to conceal. Where the plain truth is in question, great minds discard the niceties of refinement. Now, the person who wrote that article, if he were to take down his trousers before a visitor, that would be quite another matter. I leave it to his good sense. He does not do it. Let him leave me alone with his delicacy. To return to my report. When I came to myself, and that is where my own memories begin, I found myself between decks on the Hagenbeck steamer inside a cage. It was not a four-sided barred cage. 3 sides were barred, and the 4th side was made up of a locker. The whole construction was too low for me to sit down in and too narrow to stand up. And so I had to squat with my knees bent and trembling all the time. It is probably for a time I wished to see no one. My head was turned in the dark towards the locker, while the bars of the cage cut into my flesh behind. For the first time in my life, I had no way out. Directly in front of me was the locker, board fitted against board. Hopelessly sobbing, pathetically licking a coconut, desperately hunting for fleas in my fur, sticking my tongue out at whoever came to see me. That is how I spent time in my first few days on the ship, but over and above all, no way out. Until then, I had had so many ways out of everything, and now I had none. It was as if I was pinned down. Had I been nailed down, my right to free movement could not have been lessened. Why not? Huh? Why not? Scratch your flesh raw between your toes and you won't find out. Press yourself hard against the bars of the cage till they nearly cut you into two and you won't find out. I had no way out, but I had to devise one, for otherwise I could not live all the time facing that wooden wall. Oh, I would surely perish. And yet, as far as the Hagenbeck was concerned, the place for an ape was inside a cage. Well, then I had to stop being an ape. Fine, clear train of thought that I must have somehow constructed with my belly, since apes think with their bellies. I fear that you do not quite understand what I mean by way out. I deliberately do not use the word freedom. I do not mean the spacious feeling of freedom on all sides. As an ape, perhaps I knew that. I have met men who yearn for it, but I desired such freedom, not then, not now. May I say in passing that men are often betrayed by this word freedom? And as freedom is counted among the most sublime feelings, the corresponding disillusionment is also sublime. Often I have watched, before my turn came on the variety stage, a couple of acrobats performing high up on the trapezes. They would spring in the air. They would rock to and fro. They floated into each other's arms, one hanging by the hair from the teeth of another. And I said to myself, this too is human freedom, self-controlled movement. Oh, what a mockery of Holy Mother Nature, were the apes to see such a sight, no theatre walls could stand the shock of their laughter. No, freedom was not what I wanted. Only a way out. Should the way out be an illusion? The demand was a small one. The disappointment could not be larger. Only, not stay like this. Knees bent, trembling, arms suppressed, pressed against the wooden wall. Today, I realize that I could never have found my way out were it not for the profound inward calm that settled within me after my first few days. And for that calm, I had the ship's crew to say, oh, they were a good lot, despite everything. I still recall their faces and find it pleasant to remember the sound of their heavy footfalls as they echoed through my half-dreaming head. They had a habit of doing everything ever so slowly. If, for instance, one of them had to rub his eyes, then he would lift his arm as if it was a drooping weight. And always had something in their mouths to spit out, and didn't go where they spat it. In the evenings, they would sit in a semicircle around, and they wouldn't say anything to each other, just grunt. And smack their knees. The moment I made the slightest movement, and one of them would take a stick and tickle me, lightly tickle. It was the calm that I acquired among these people that above all prevented me from trying to escape. Now, I do not know whether escape was possible, but I believe for an ape it must always be possible. But what good would it have done me then? Suppose I had managed to get out of the cage, go up to the deck, jump overboard, I would have been drowned. Having rocked for some time on the deep sea. Desperate solutions. I did not think of all this in this human way, but I acted under the influence of my surroundings, as if I thought of it. I did not think things, but I observed everything. I watched every day the same movements, to and fro, the same man. Often it seemed to me it was the one man. Should this man or these men could walk about unimpeded to become like them. To become like them. Oh, no. No. No one promised me that if I became like them, the bars of my cage would be taken away. Apparently, such impossible promises are not made, but if one achieves the impossible, those promises appear in the very place where one had looked in vain for them before, to become like them. It was so easy to imitate human beings. The first thing I learned was how to spit. And we would spit in each other's faces. The only difference was that I would lick my face clean afterwards, and they would not. And soon I learned how to smoke a pipe. And a roar of approval went up between decks when I pressed my thumb into the bowl of the pipe. Only it took me a long time to distinguish the difference between a full pipe and an empty one. My worst trouble came from the bottle of rum. The smell of it revolted me. And strangely, this inward conflict was taken more seriously by the crew than anything else. There was one man. Cannot quite distinguish his face, but he would come every day, alone with friends, by day, by night, at all kinds of hours, and place himself next to my cage with a bottle of rum. And look at me to see if I had followed him. Oh, I followed him with wildly eager, too eager an attention, such a student of humankind no human teacher ever found. Then he would uncap the bottle, and I, enchanted by my gradual enlightenment, squealed and scratched myself wherever scratching was called for. And then he would take a drink. I, desperate and impatient emulating, would befoul myself in the cage, which gave him great satisfaction. And then, holding the bottle at an arm's length and bringing it up with a swing, he would empty it in one draught and throw the bottle away, while I hung limply to the bars, unable to follow him any farther, as he finished his theoretical exposition by rubbing his belly and grinning. After theory came practice. Was I not already quite exhausted by my theoretical instruction? Indeed, I was, but that was part of my destiny. And so I would take hold of the proffered bottle with trembling, following my original model almost exactly, bring it up to my lips.
Throw it away! In disgust! Utter disgust! Even though the bottle was empty and filled only with the smell of the spirit! Throw it away!
Much to the sorrow of my teacher, to the greater sorrow of myself, none of us be very comforted by the fact that though I had thrown the bottle away, I did not forget to rub my belly and grin. To be fair to my teacher, he was not angry with me. He realized that both of us were fighting against the same thing, the nature of apes. And in that, I had the more difficult task. What a triumph it was! That evening, there was a celebration of some sort. The gramophone was playing. A captain was circulating among the crew, but I saw that a bottle of rum had been left carelessly right next to my cage, and took hold of it And as the company began to watch me with mounted interest, uncapted in the best style, with no hesitation or grimace, brought it up to my lips, and like a professional drinker, with rolling eyes and full throat, well and truly drank it empty, and threw the bottle away, not just time in disgust, but as an artistic performer, forgot, indeed, to rub my belly, but instead of that, because I could not help it, because my senses were reeling, called a brief and unmistakable hello, breaking into human speech, and with that outburst broke into the human community and felt its echo. Oi, 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 oi! Look, he's talking like a caress of my sweat-drenched body. I repeat, human beings have no attraction for me to imitate. I imitated them because I needed a way out, and for no other reason. And anyway, that brief triumph didn't achieve much. I lost my human voice almost immediately, and it took me months for it to come back. But the line I had to follow had been decided once and for all. And so, when I was handed over to my first trainer in Hamburg, I had two alternatives: the variety stage or the zoological gardens. I told myself, get on to the variety stage. The zoological garden means another cage. Once there, you're done for. And so, I learned things. Ladies and gentlemen, one learns when one needs a way out. One learns when one needs it at all costs. One stands over oneself with a whip and flays oneself at the slightest opposition. My ape nature flew out of me, head over heels in a way such that my first teacher was himself turned to an ape bite. Had to be removed to the mental hospital. Luckily he was let out again. I used up many teachers at once. Indeed, as the public began to take a growing interest in me, I became more and more confident in my abilities. I engaged 5 teachers in 5 communicating rooms and took lessons from them simultaneously by dint of leaping from room to room. All that progress of mine, how the rays of knowledge penetrated into my awakening brain from all sides, I do not deny it. It was exhilarating. I must also confess, I did not overestimate it then. I do so much less now. In a struggle which up till now has never been repeated, I have managed to reach the cultural level of an average European. In itself that might be nothing, but it is something insofar as it has helped me out of the cage and opened a new way out for me, the way of humanity. There is an excellent idiom to fight one's way is what I have done. I have fought through the thick of tears. There was nothing else for me to do. As I look back now over my development, I do not complain, but I'm not complacent either. With my hands in my trouser pockets and my bottle of wine on the table, I half sit and half lie in the rocking chair. Rock, rock, and gaze out of the window. When a visitor arrives, I receive him with propriety. My manager sits in the anteroom and comes and listens to what I have to say. Every night, I give a performance and have a success which can hardly be increased. And late into the night, when I come back from banquets, from social gatherings, from scientific receptions, there sits, waiting for me, a half-trained little chimpanzee. By day, I cannot bear to look at her, for she has the insane look of the bewildered, half-broken animal in her eye. No one else sees it, but I do, and I cannot bear it. But at night, I take comfort from her as imps do. On the whole, I have achieved what I set out to achieve. Let no one tell me it was not worth the trouble. In any case, I'm not asking for any man's verdict. I'm only making a report. I'm only imparting knowledge to you also, honored members of the International Court of Justice. I have only made a report. बहुत सारा शुक्रिया, थैंक यू। हमारे सुपरवाइजर सरजीत सिंह गिल साहब, रोजी और कई लोग तब आए थे हैबिटेट में, तब से लेकर आज तक ये जिंदा है। इसके लिए रोजी एक तरह से from she to you, and she's a part of you. So thank you so much, Rosie. I would also like to thank Arts and Aesthetics, the entire school. I will not name anybody apart from the team, I'll come to that, but having provided us so generously, so freely and normally the support, everything. I mean, for rehearsals, day after day. So thanks to all my colleagues and students and friends there. And now, and of course, even before I call all of us and we stand before you together, I would like to thank the presence of, some of you have seen the film, many of you have seen the film, Zamir. जो पुणे से आए हैं, जो खुद इस परफॉर्मेंस को कर चुके हैं, जर्मन वो जानते हैं, जर्मन पढ़ाते हैं, जर्मन किया है और मराठी में उन्होंने इसका डायरेक्शन किया है। और वैभव की फिल्म जिसके लिए हम संतोष में और ज़मीर हम लोग सब साथ हो सके, जाहिर है कि वैभव को एक बहुत मेरी तरफ से और बाकी कई लोग हैं, लेकिन मैं चाहता हूं अगर थोड़ा सा आप लोग सब्र करें कि इस नाटक के साथ जो जुड़े हुए हैं सब जानते हैं कौन जुड़े हुए हैं, सब स्टेज पर आ जाए। धनराज शुरू से रहे हैं और हर बार उनका राय की बात बन नहीं रही है। उन्होंने तुमसे कहा है तभी आज इतना कर पाए, नहीं तो इसके आधा भी नहीं पहुंच पाए। लक्ष्य ने भी एक तरह से परफॉर्मेंस की इतनी बारीकियां देखी कि आई एम रियली ग्रेटफुल टू हिम इन द सेंस ऑफ एन एक्टर। दिलावर ने आखिरी मौके पर कई आए हैं, दिलावर भी आए हैं जिन्होंने हम सबको सहारा दिया। तो दिलावर दोनों साथ में, और हर्षाली ये तीनों हमारे साथ में है। तो ये पूरा टीम है। विक्रम कपड़ा से और लीस्ट नहीं लास्ट भी नहीं, साउंड पर। And so, thanks to all of you for having stayed so long and been so patient. Thank you.